Hi, I'm Matt Welby. This is the IBM Spectrum Protect Plus video series. This video is video number 3, Backup. In this video, I'll show you how to protect VMware Virtual Guest to IBM Spectrum Protect Plus. Setting up Virtual Guest to be protected with Spectrum Protect Plus is really simple. There's 3 steps. The first step is to create the appropriate SLA policies to use. The second step is to add the vCenter or the hypervisor that contains the virtual machines. And then lastly, just select the virtual machines you want to protect and add them to the appropriate policy. To create or edit an SLA policy, on the left side of the screen you'll see the menu. About halfway down you'll see SLA policy. Click on that. This screen will list all of the SLA policies in this Spectrum Protect Plus environment. We can either use an existing one, gold, silver, bronze, come pre-configured for you, or you can go ahead and create a new custom one or go back and customize one of the existing ones. We'll focus on gold today. If I click on the edit button, we can see down below that we have a retention for 2 days for these backups. And the reason is it's a very high RTO, recovery time objective. These happen every hour at 5 minutes past the hour. You choose your target vSnap appliance. In this case, I'll leave it at primary. And then lastly, you can offload to Spectrum Protect. That will be covered in a subsequent video. To see which vSnap appliance is primary in your environment, just click on Backup Storage. Underneath Site, you can see we have primary defined, and that's our local host vSnap. The second component is making sure that we have our hypervisor added in. I'll click on Hypervisor, VMware, and Backup. This Manage vCenter button is where we can manage existing vCenter or host or add additional. To add a new vCenter or ESX host, I click my little plus button and then fill in the credentials. I give the IP a host name and then the correct username and password, as well as port and whether or not I want to use SSL to connect to this resource. The VMware account you provide needs to be able to do certain things inside the VMware environment. These privileges are detailed starting on page 13 in the Installation and Users Guide. Once your vCenter is successfully added, you'll notice, again we're under VMware Backup, that your host appears. You can click on it and now navigate through your entire virtual environment. To select a machine to be included in an SLA, you need to select the machines, click on the Select SLA button, and then click on the appropriate SLA for this environment. I'll click Save, and we'll notice that both the AD Server 01 and the API demo are now both in the gold SLA. To remove them, it's pretty much the opposite. Select the machines, choose Select SLA Policy, make sure these are all unchecked now, click Save. That will remove them from the SLA policy. You may want to add virtual machines into multiple SLA policies. The procedure to do that is identical. First, select the virtual machines. Next, click on the Select SLA Policy button. Then we get to select which policies we want these VMs to be included in, and then lastly click on Save. You can see I now have my top 2 virtual machines and 3 different policies. That's how easy it is to add a virtual guest to a Spectrum Protect Plus SLA policy. There's other things in the screen I'd like to point out. The view I'm using is VM views. There's 2 other views we could select. We could choose VMs and templates or data stores. I'll select VMs and templates first, and you notice I'm right back at the hypervisor level. The reason is we're going to show more information under it. As I double click, you see the entire organization of my virtual environment. I see folders, I can see individual VMs if I scroll down. I can select an entire folder and assign it to an SLA policy. This is a neat way of doing it because any machines added to that folder will be automatically included. I can also change my view to data store and then choose the data stores to back up instead of the individual machines. Let's look at some of the options. The first option is make VMware Snapshot application file system consistent. Checking this will invoke a VMware Snapshot. The VMware Snapshot can coordinate with VM tools on a virtual guest. If you had Windows installed with VSS, the Volume Shadow Copy Service, and select this, you can go ahead and make any application, SQL, Exchange, any VSS compliant application consistent. Skip read-only data stores speaks for itself. Skip temporary data stores mounted for instant access. This will skip any data stores that I've mounted using Spectrum Protect Plus, so that I don't include them in the backup. Catalog file metadata. I love this feature. This feature, when selected, will cause Spectrum Protect Plus to build a file index of all the files on your protected VM. That will enable us to do individual file searching and individual file recovery. After selecting this, I need to provide a guest OS username and a guest OS password. This could either be a local account or a domain account. There are two ways to add these. I can either click on Use Existing User and then scroll down through my credential store to find the appropriate user to use. Or I can just type in my credentials. In this case, I'll paste the name and type in my password. Clicking Save will now cause every virtual machine that I'm adding to this SLA to have a file index built enabling individual file recovery. When you're selecting a machine for backup, you can actually use the search functionality. Instead of going down and scrolling through your environment, I can actually search for specific machines. I'm going to put in PXJ, and we see that I have one SQL server with PXJ in its name. Optionally, I could actually look for virtual machines that aren't in any SLA or machines that are already assigned to a specific SLA. For Hyper-V virtual guest, the process is very similar. I'm going to click on Hypervisor, Hyper-V, Backup. I need to make sure my Hyper-V server are added in. You can say I have a couple. Just like with VMware though, I can add additional by clicking on this button. Click the little plus, and I provide hostname, user, password, and port. The selection of the Hyper-V guest is real simple. Just like VMware, I double click on my Hyper-V server and I select the machines that I'd like to include in a Spectrum Protect Plus SLA policy. I click on my Select SLA Policy button, the policy I'd like it to be added to, and save. It's that simple. I also have options on my Hyper-V. The select options are very similar. We have the skip read-only data stores, skip temporary data stores for mounted instant access, catalog the file metadata, again will require that guest user OS and guest password, and truncate SQL logs. If I need to check on the status of the backup jobs I've created, I just need to go into the area that I created them. In my case, I'm going into VMware, Backup, and then on the bottom I see all these SLA policies. The SLA policies have a little arrow to the left of them. Clicking the drop down on this left arrow will show me all of the runtimes for this SLA policy and the status of it. If I need more information, again clicking this little arrow will give me the entire job log for that run.